Hey you guys, it's Jen with the Iridescent Dragonflies, and I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about spring. So in Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, there are 5 elements: air, ether, water, fire, and earth. And those 5 elements make up everything that is, including the seasons. So in spring, we have a combination of 2 of those elements, and those 2 elements are earth and water. And when we think about the transition from winter to spring, it's a pretty big one, right? Winter has been dry and cold and barren. Not much is going on outside other than just cold and dry and barren, right? And then when we start to make that transition into spring, lots of things happen. It starts to rain. So the earth gets nourished, the plants and the seeds that have been planted and the trees, everything is starting to get water again. And then when that happens, they start to bud and grow again. And as that all happens, it's not really warm yet, right? The first rains of spring, it's pretty chilly still. It's not as cold as it was in winter, but it's still pretty cool. And when we put the rain on top of that, it can be damp and moist and cool and a little bit uncomfortable maybe for a lot of us. And as that gets going then and things start to sprout, new life is brought forth. You think about springtime and the baby animals being born, the baby plants shooting up out of the ground, and it's a super exciting time of growth and rebirth. Well, some other things that happen though, when we have the rain coming down on the earth, it creates mud, right? As we think about, snow melting and creeks starting to run, rivers starting to run, what's one of the things that tends to happen during that time? Well, we get the debris, right? Things collect along the banks, or if there's a little, cut out in, along the creek or the river, a bunch of debris will pile up that's come down from the snow melt or from up higher. And so it's clearing all of that debris away from the cold, dry winter and causing a congestion, right, in the earth. And the same thing then happens to us in our bodies. During the wintertime, we get more dried out and colder. And as spring comes and things start to get moisture, start to get just a tiny bit warmer, we get congested, right? In the springtime, we often notice that we feel, stuffy and congested in our sinuses. We may notice, especially in the morning time, that we need to clear our throat a lot, right? We're like over and over and over trying to get that out of our throat. So during the springtime, and especially in the morning, we get very congested. And so when that happens, we find ourselves feeling like, ugh, spring, I just want it to be over. But we don't have to feel that way. It is a beautiful time of the year. So there's a few things that Ayurveda suggests that we can incorporate into our day to help lessen the effects of spring on our bodies. Yay, right? This is great news. So a few things that we can do to help us get going and to feel good during springtime. Here's a few suggestions. 1, wake up before sunrise. I know I don't like this one either, but it really does help. And I talk extensively about that getting up early in my video called Get Up at 5:55 a.m. with a big question mark. So check that one out if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about the reason why it's so helpful and beneficial to get up before 6 a.m. Something else we can do if you're feeling that the congestion in your throat, you've had a lot of drainage and it can be very raw there. Another remedy for that is to gargle with warm water with some pink Himalayan salt and turmeric mixed in. You don't need a whole lot. About 1/4 of a teaspoon to 1/2 of a teaspoon should do it in a mug of warm water. And then just gargle that. That will help to soothe the throat, and it will also help the warm water will help to flush out some of that congestion. Another one that we probably don't think of very often is to get just a little bit of oil and put it either on your pinky finger, or you could use a Q-tip and just apply it just inside the edges of the nose on each side. And that little bit of oil, I recommend sesame oil or coconut oil. Just putting that just inside will do a couple of things. One, if you've been blowing your nose a lot, it will help to soothe and nourish that lining of the nose there. You know, it can get so dried out from all of the Kleenexes. And the other thing it will do is to help catch pollens and pollutants in the air. And if you suffer from springtime allergies, this could really help, because if you have just that little bit of oil there, it traps the pollens before they get farther in and start to irritate farther into the body. So that's a nice thing to try. Another great thing is to incorporate exercise that's a little bit vigorous. We want to get the body nice and warm when we're exercising, especially in the springtime. It's cool out, it may be damp out, and so doing a fast-paced walk or maybe a bike ride or a strong yoga practice, something that really gets our blood pumping and gets our body feeling really warm. And the earlier in the morning we do that, the better we will feel the rest of the day. It gets our body set up and energized and ready for the morning. Something else to really focus on to feel great inside our body is to eat seasonal foods. So we want to pick things that are growing right now: sprouts, spring greens. As it gets even further into spring, some berries would be great. A few great vegetables that are coming up in spring too. Check your farmers markets and see what's in season. Eating those seasonal foods, especially things in the springtime, if you focus on tastes that are astringent. And astringent are the ones that make your teeth feel really dry, like spinach does, or some beans do, or pomegranates, you know, that dry feeling in the mouth. Those kinds of foods are the ones that are going to help clear the congestion out, because they're drying, they pull, right? They pull moisture, so they're going to do the same thing in our body. So we really want to focus on those astringent types of foods as much as we can in the springtime. Another thing you might want to think about is doing a cleanse in the spring. It's a great time in our body in the season to get rid of stuff we don't need anymore. You know, we've been hanging on to weight and nutrition and bulk during the winter because that's the way our bodies are wired. Hang on to it in case we need it. Not a lot of food grows in the wintertime historically. And so our bodies are designed to hang on to stuff, and they continue to hang on to that through the cool, damp spring, because that takes a lot of energy, right? It takes a lot of energy to stay warm when the weather outside is cool and dry. So a cleanse is super beneficial during springtime. If you don't have one that you like, my favorite one is by a company called Purium, and it's a 10-day, they call it a 10-day transformation. And what it does is cleanse through the digestive system, and it's like a digestive reset button. That thing helps to break cravings. It helps to drop any pounds if you have them. One thing I really like about this particular cleanse is if you don't have weight to lose, then you don't lose any. If you do have a little bit of extra weight hanging on, then it flushes a lot of that off. I'll put a link in the notes. I do have a link for that cleanse, and I also have a gift code for you too if that's something you're interested in looking at. So springtime, our bodies, the way they react in the spring, the characteristics of spring, thinking about how can we reduce the congestion, the sluggishness, how can we keep our bodies warm during this characteristically cool time of year. So I hope that helps to explain some things about spring and how Ayurveda sees spring for you guys, and I will see you again soon. Until next time, bye for now.